The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello and welcome, Governor Chris Sununu. Thank you for taking the time in your busy schedule to come to our People's View and talk about what the state's doing, especially with this virus stuff and how we're getting our economics back together again.
Sure. Well, look, hey, thanks for having me. I'm sorry we can't be in the studio. Everything's a little bit different kind of this summer and this fall, but we're going to get through it pretty well.
Good. Is the economy going to open up a little bit more? Or what's the timing now?
Sure. So look, I mean, we have the most flexible economy in the Northeast. Our unemployment rate is dropping at twice the rate of the national average. I think unemployment as of this morning, as of mid-August, was about 6.3%, which is phenomenal. It used to be well over 15%. So just in the past couple of months, it keeps dropping precipitously. People are getting back to work. The economy is open. Businesses are open. Everything has flexed open. I mean, one of the challenges that we had were things, even the businesses like Canopy Lake Park and some of the more challenging larger type venues, we've opened them all up, right, with new guidance and new stipulations, but they're open and they're doing great. And compared to some of our friends, in Vermont, I think Vermont, Governor Scott's done a great job, but their unemployment rate is still very high. Massachusetts unemployment rate is still sky high, one of the highest in the country. So our neighbors just aren't faring quite as well economically. So we're in a blessed position. Our numbers on COVID continue to be very low. The economic opportunities continue to be very high. And we've kind of struck that. I think that balance is the best balance you can probably hope for, given the unprecedented crisis that frankly, the bad hand we've been dealt across this entire country. But in New Hampshire, we're in a pretty darn good position.
Good. And the tax rate is, not the tax rate, but the tax income is coming up as businesses get back on site.
Without a doubt. Look, we've always known we're going to have a pretty big hole, given the tough economic situation of late spring and early summer. We thought it was somewhere in the realm of $500 or million more dollars. That was going to be a big budget hole to fix. But now it looks like it's more in the range of maybe $350 million because businesses are opening up much better than we anticipated that they could or they would. And so that's a great thing. People are coming back to work much faster than we thought possible. And so that's a great thing. It's all about creating that opportunity. And again, when businesses have the opportunity to thrive, when individuals are coming back to work, that's kind of a rising tide floats all boats. It creates a more opportunity and frankly, less of a financial crunch at the state. It'll still be very big. Don't get me wrong, but we can manage. We can manage all of this these revenue issues and the tax issues without raising taxes, without raising fees, without creating more burdens on families and businesses and communities. We can manage it.
Well, do you think that the education system is going along all right now, or is there still a lot of undecided elements to that?
Well, in terms of COVID, we provided 40 pages of guidance and all the different aspects of what should be happening in a classroom or with teachers, the different aspects of remote learning or hybrid learning. Working with Commissioner Edelblue and his team, they did a very good job. The Department of Public Health had input and they did a very good job. And now we believe in local control. So districts have to decide where they're going to go. The governor cannot force schools open, nothing like that. So allowing them to have the data and the flexibility to decide what they want to do, knowing, the kind of the guideposts that we're putting around it from a public health and safety standpoint. Most schools will open up. That's great. There's a dozen or less that are deciding to go remote right away. A lot are trying to find that middle ground where there's a hybrid model. Kids come in for a couple of days, another cohort of kids come in other days. So it's not allowing these kind of large super spreader potential events in schools, but still allowing the kids to come in and have that eyes-on connection with the teachers that I believe is very important. Teachers have to figure out who the kids are, right? How they learn and what they can do best. And that's why, having the governor dictate and mandate a one size fits all from the governor's office from Colebrook down to Manchester That doesn't make any sense. I know the Democrats are pushing that kind of model, but that doesn't make any sense at all. That's not how we do things. One of the reasons we have such a strong education system in this state is because we allow local districts, the school boards and the teachers and the principals and the parents to really have so much say and input as to what happens in that classroom. So providing the guideposts around that and then allowing them to kind of have those flexibilities to see what is best for the student, not just the system, but the student has to be put as the top priority here.
Right.
And when you do that, I think that what we're seeing is a lot of districts are making good decisions, allowing these kids to come back in, build that relationship, and having that time in the classroom that's so important.
But you're leaving it to local choice because they know the situation best, is probably the best way of going. Not everybody learns the same. Not everybody has the same geographic situation or whatever. And that's going along good. I guess some of them are finding out that the first guest isn't the best for them too, and they're making a change on the run, which seems to be working out.
And that's okay. I mean, it can be a little I'm a parent. I got a couple of high schoolers and my second grader as well. So I know it's a trying time. It can be a little confusing for parents. Districts are kind of changing. Some of the districts are kind of changing what they want to do kind of midstream, but that's okay. I mean, these are very unknown waters. None of us have ever gone through this before. And I think what the districts are doing is they're kind of coming up with their proposals, but then they're soliciting parental input, right? What do the parents and the students want to see? And they're making kind of those changes on the fly. And I think that's a good process. That means that they're listening. People have a voice. People have a say in how their kids' education is going to go. And again, it's not just the governor and the state mandating a one-size-fits-all for every district. I know that that's what some of the folks on the other side of the aisle want, but that's just not the way we do things in New Hampshire. And that's one of the reasons why we're so successful.
Is the variation causing any kind of problem with the state's support, monetary support going with the student or what?
No. So, look, my administration has put more money to public education than any administration in history, far and away. No, it's not even close, frankly. So we support the schools very strongly and our education system very well. Even in the tough economic times, we made a commitment not to adjust those formulas or adjust what schools can be expecting. We closed the gap where there was something called the adequacy gap, where certain districts were had money coming in previous years. It had been dried up. We opened those opportunities up. We provided more dollars to infrastructure than any administration in history. So schools can simply fix themselves up. They can fix the doors and the windows and the leaky ceilings and whatnot. We're the only administration to ever create a safe school infrastructure fund. $30 million went out to schools so they could, again, secure their schools, make sure they are safe. Make sure that they are places where there's good communication with whether it's local police and fire and emergency responders. So there's been more money put into the education system in the last 3 years under my administration than any other time in history. And so the resources are there. Then you had all the COVID money, right? Then COVID came in and put another $40 million into the system so they could recover their COVID costs and pay for PPE. Schools haven't even drawn all that money down. So money is definitely not the problem. Funding is not the problem right now. It's just making sure that, again, parents and teachers have that input and it can be kind of built into their pathway, knowing that the one-room schoolhouse in a small town in rural New Hampshire might be very different than what's happening at Manchester High School or Nashua. Nashua North or something like that. Those are big schools and very different environments than other parts of the state. And so knowing that, and then you had the levels of COVID, right? How much the cases of COVID in Nashua might be very different than the cases of COVID in all of Coos County. I think as of right now, there's 0 cases of COVID in the entire county up there. So you have to put all of those data points into the mix to make sure you're making the best decision for those students.
Well, that sounds good. I'm not sure everybody realizes how much support they're getting for those elements. But what about healthcare? How is that being handled? It seems to be adequate. We're not running out of anything, and we seem to not filling the IR or whatever. How's that?
We're doing well. We're really doing well in a variety of aspects. So, you have the COVID, the healthcare issues around COVID and making sure that anyone who wants a test can get a test. We were one of the first states to be able to offer that. Making sure there's, PPE for folks who need, masks or cloth masks or protective equipment, whatever it is. We've become very, very good. One of the best states in the country in terms of soliciting PPE and getting it out to all the districts. We put out 200,000 cloth masks all over the state for citizens who might not have been able to purchase their own. You can get the low-cost disposable masks. Anytime people need something, whether it's a school district or a town, we're right there helping facilitate those purchases. So we've been able to really take care of, I think, the healthcare aspects in terms of dealing with COVID for the individual citizens, at least today. And again, we'll see where things go. The biggest problem with COVID is just as people weren't going to see their doctors and coming into their hospitals, there was a huge revenue problem with some of those entities, and you don't want hospitals and doctors to close their doors. So we were the first state in the country. I set up an emergency relief fund, healthcare emergency relief. We did it well before the federal government even did it, to make sure doors weren't closing, so people could get the healthcare that they and their families really needed and deserved. And that's gone very, very well. We've put, somewhere around 40, 50, $60 million out into those entities, and we have other rounds going out. We have a lot of support going to long-term care facilities. They're caring for our loved ones in a variety of levels. They had a lot of outbreaks early on. I think we had up to 29 outbreaks at one point. I think as of today, we're down to 2. So we've done very, very well containing COVID, providing some economic relief for those facilities, because you don't want them to not be able to pay their bills, because they're taking care of our loved ones, right? And it's very important that they're sustainable. And then you just have general health care, right? As jobs were lost and unemployment rose, you had more people going on more of the Medicaid type system. And we saw those numbers rise, not quite as high as we were anticipating. That's good. But we do have kind of a management system in place there. Recent news this week was anyone who has bought in healthcare on that, what we call the New Hampshire Healthcare Exchange. That's where you can kind of, if you're self-employed or the private plans are too expensive, you can go and buy healthcare through our healthcare exchange. We found out this week that the rates, the premiums for those healthcare plans are dropping 20% next year. That's going to be a huge economic opportunity, given that people are in tough times. With the COVID crisis. So that makes those plans much, much more affordable for individuals and families. So there's a lot to this. I could go on all day about healthcare in the state, but we try to make sure every stone is turned. We dot every I, we cross every T. We got a great team up here, and we're providing that opportunity for those families to get the healthcare they need, have the safety they deserve, and it helps bring some of their anxieties, right? There's a little bit of anxiety over what's happening with COVID and healthcare, and should I go to the doctor or not? Is it safe? But I think by providing these resources and putting all these puzzle pieces together, I think we've been able to give our citizens a lot of confidence in the system.
So they're going to have more choice on some of the healthcare that they need. It's more an option of what they need rather than what you're telling them they should take.
Or what they could previously afford, right? It's just much more affordable now. Yeah.
And on the tests for the virus, are we having enough of those tests available? And is the analysis timeline cut back a little bit?
It is, yeah. So it's a great question. So early on, we had very few tests, right? We just couldn't meet the need. Nobody could in the entire country. So as they became more readily available, we got to the point where anyone who wanted a test could get a test. I think the turnaround time in terms of getting the testing results was averaging about 4 or 5 days. And then as the rest of the country started really seeing their numbers skyrocket, God bless it, we didn't see our numbers after our first surge. We didn't see the second surge quite hit us. But as the rest of the country started seeing their numbers skyrocket, that put a massive demand on the national testing system. And most tests are done out of state. It's the way the federal government has designed it, by private companies, LabCorp and Quest and a couple others. They do the majority of the tests. So even though we're not in Florida, the fact that you had 10,000 or whatever it is, 100,000 people a day in Florida, trying to get a test, that just put more demand on the national system. And you saw the turnaround time, the time waiting for the results to come back, go from 4 or 5 days to like 12, 13, 14 days, which at that point, it's almost, what's the use of the test, right? You probably work through your symptoms by the time you get the results back. So that was very problematic. Now, I think the federal government's put a lot of emphasis, tried to get those turnaround times down, made more of the materials available. And as of this week, I want to say the average turnaround time was about 4 days again, which is good. It means that you might get a test, you might be quarantined for 4 or 5 days while you wait for your results, but you can get them and get back into the workforce or back home or whatever it is, with a negative result. Or at least that you're going to be positive early on, that you are positive, and to make sure that you're adhering to the quarantine provisions going forward. So that turnaround time really is important, but we're a little bit beholden to the national level. We have more testing capacity. We're constantly building in state, of course. Dartmouth-Hitchcock and UNH, they have their own devices now. Public Health has their own devices. There's a couple rapid ID tests that are out there that hospitals and long-term care facilities use. So we're building our own capacity here in New Hampshire at a pretty good clip. And that just takes, I think, more of our reliance on this nationalized testing capacity, takes more of our reliance off of that, and therefore puts the turnaround times on average a little better than we were anticipating.
Isn't there a new test coming on that gets results in hours rather than days?
Yeah, so there's a couple different versions of the rapid test. A company named Abbott made a rapid test early on. It was good, not super accurate. It was, if you got a positive, you were positive. If you got a negative, we realized you probably need a second test to confirm you're truly negative, to double check it. There's another type of a rapid test that is now being brought into long-term care facilities. Very similar, can give you results in about 20 or 30 minutes. And then there's a new saliva test coming on board. They're always trying to develop new and better and more accurate tests, to be sure. And we have a couple different variations of it here in the state. So usually when they're not as accurate as others, you can still use them, but you might need a second test to confirm it. That's all.
Well, I think that might be a good thing to do, because sometimes you want, as you say, results quickly because you want to treat it quickly, or and if you have to do a second test just to verify it, that's not bad. But you at least get a quick knowledge of a person's condition.
Yeah, the big limiting factor, I don't know if people appreciate, almost all of the testing materials, what they call the RNA assays, and the liquid materials that go into the testing device itself, when you put your swab in there, that stuff is in fairly limited supply. That's the stuff they're trying to make as fast as they can. But because of the demand, that's where we I can only, for the most part, we can only buy that from the federal government. They control almost all of it out of FEMA. So I can only buy as much as they're willing to give us. It's not about money. It's not that we're not, our orders aren't big enough. We have many weeks of back orders in there, and we just are kind of beholden to what they can give us. We're not a high priority state. In a way, that's a good thing, because it means we don't have a lot of COVID, but it means that, we don't take the precedent that Los Angeles or Houston or Miami or, Arkansas or Alabama or Washington or Oregon or Arizona or New Mexico or Colorado. I mean, all these states that are just flying high with their COVID numbers. 45 other states are in pretty tough positions, and I think they're just taking priority. We're very blessed here, considering the position we're in today.
Well, how about the people who want some recreational activity now, and are they getting a little bit more freedom and not using it appropriately?
No, I mean, look, you can go to the beach, you can go hiking, you can go swimming in the lakes, you can go sailing, go fishing. We've always, that's all wide open. You can go up to Loudon and watch the race. We had the NASCAR race. We're going to have Bike Week. It'll probably be smaller than it traditionally is, but we're allowing all these events to happen. Other states are not allowing this stuff to happen. We're flexing all of this open and all of this opportunity for our citizens and for our economy. Tourism is booming. If you've been up north, I mean, the number of people that are coming into our state, for tourism purposes is very, very strong. Those businesses I think are doing better than we anticipated. We thought they'd be quite devastated this summer, but it looks like we're providing a lot of that opportunity without the outbreaks. Cases here and there, but no major outbreaks as of yet, knock on wood. So from an economy and a flexing things open standpoint, you won't find a stronger economy in the Northeast. You won't find more opportunity than we've created here. Those individuals out there that say you've shut down this economy, walk out the door. Walk out the door and tell me that the economy is shut down. Not even close. Our unemployment rate is, like I said, is dropping precipitously. People are getting back to work by the thousands every week. I think 6,000 people got back to work just this week, right? And so, we're on a really good path. I don't want to jinx anything, and I don't want to take it for granted because it was been very hard to get to this point. But compared to other states, we're doing very, very well economically.
Yeah, down here in Nashville, we're doing fairly well. We have a collegiate ball team that's in the playoffs now for the league championship starting, I think, tonight. And that's going to be good. We even have, I'm on a softball team for the over 70s, and we're playing softball once a week. But anyway, I wanted to go into...
what position do you play, Carl? What position do you play on softball?
Catcher or outfield.
There you go. There you go.
But what I wanted to get into now is the campaign. How's your campaign going, and what can we expect to see you down here sometime? Yeah,
so it's been obviously a very weird year. That's probably the best way to put it in terms of the campaign. I'm not going to lie. I've been absolutely wrapped up dealing with the state, managing the state. Legislature disappeared early. They were pretty bent on putting a lot of bad bills on my desk. We vetoed a lot of that, got some of the important stuff done, like, the fact that we have the lowest insulin costs in the country, the fact that we can now do prescriptions over the border, the fact that telemedicine is going to be more permanent and booming. That's been a huge opportunity. So we got really important things done. I'm very proud of my administration for making sure that we got those things done. But when it comes to the campaign, we're kind of, I know it's like mid-August, we're kind of just getting into that mode. We do need to raise some money. We do need to bring some awareness, talk about things that are important to people like COVID. That's a top issue. The economy, taxes. The other side is looking at bringing in income taxes. I vetoed that twice. They're looking at raising business taxes. I vetoed that budget and we got them to negotiate it out. When they tried to create a business tax trigger, we came close, but I managed around that one. When I told them to get rid of it, they wouldn't do it. We managed around it. Don't worry, no business taxes. And now that we're going to have a pretty significant budget crunch coming up, again, we can manage without these significant taxes. It is not a revenue problem. They keep talking about revenue problems. Look, our revenue is down, but it's not a problem. It's manageable. It really, really is. And we can make some of those tough decisions. So again, making sure that you're opening up opportunity for businesses and families and not creating more of the regulation that we had for, the 20 years between the mid-90s and 2016. We just had massive regulation in the state. So we want to remind folks about all the important things that we've done. We've got an incredible record of success in all these areas. I'm very proud. And one thing I tell people is when it comes to a campaign, I ask one thing: look at our record. Look at our record of success. Yes. Not what politicians say, not what candidates talk. Talk is cheap. Look at the record of success, accountability, and results. Results are all that matters. What are the results for kids in schools? What are the results for businesses? What are the results for individuals? Compared to most states, we've got a tremendous record in all of those areas. We're very proud of what we've put together. And that's all I ask, that people look at the record, look at how we treat people, the respect we give them, the individual attention that we give. We focus on individuals, not just on these big government systems. We really focus on individuals in this administration. We're very proud of that. So we have a couple more months to keep pushing that message and really starting to really get it out. And it's tough through the national messaging that's happening because of the presidential campaign. Yes. That's a lot.
That's it's a lot of hate going on too, which we don't need here. New Hampshire's not that kind of a state, really, but you do need a little bit more support in the legislature to make sure you're getting your what you want to do in running the state.
Sure, and again, it's not. I really mean this sincerely. It's not just what I want to do. It's what the state wants. It's what the Granite State and the Live Free or Die state is all about. We're not about taxes and income taxes. We're not about business taxes. We're not about more regulations and getting in people's way. We're about local control, limited taxes, limited government. That's how we do things here. And if you just take that for granted and you start doing it like all these other states are doing it, we're going to go backwards. We're going to go backwards very quickly, and it's not going to have the best results for our citizens. So other states call me, other governors call me and ask us how we're doing it. How are you getting people back to work so fast? How are you doing this model? How do you manage government without an income tax? we do it. We do it really well.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to emulate us. And in my administration, I take a lot of pride in that. Why would we go backwards and do things like New York or Chicago or Illinois or California or Washington or Oregon? I mean, these places with, frankly, a lot of these places that are very democratically led. I can appreciate those are those officials that are elected, but those places are in real trouble. They really are. And so you got to appreciate those results. Look at those results and look at our results. Right? Why would we copy a model of those places that are just in a disaster position, some of them right now? I mean, boy, my goodness, walk around Chicago or Los Angeles or New York or Minneapolis or Seattle or San Francisco or Portland. We can go on forever with these cities, right? We've got great leadership here. We'd love to get a little more support in the legislature to make sure we're focusing on New Hampshire values and New Hampshire principles. And I think we'll be successful in November.
Well, I think you watch all the different things that are going on because you're able to move things around, move money around, move resources around enough to what is necessary real quickly. You can do that. You can respond to some problems that quick up on you. But
look, the state of emergency has been very important. If I may, really quick. Having the ability to move quickly and adapt quickly in a crisis is so critically important. And when the Democrats sued to slow the whole process down, create a legislative bureaucracy that would have all these results that we've gotten, all the funds we've put out, all the opportunity we've created for business with the Main Street Relief Fund and whatnot, that all would have come to a screeching halt. And they wanted to sue us over that. And I said, there's nothing political here. COVID is not political. It's just a crisis. We gotta respond.
Yeah. I think you've been doing a good job, and I want to be able to have you back on just before the election. Maybe we'll give you one last swing at everything so we can bring everybody to vote the right way.
No, you bet. And look, we God bless you. You're doing a great job there. I wish I could be in studio. What it looks like in a couple months, who knows, right? We're in a great place today. Let's not ignore that. It was carefully designed. The people of the state are doing a great job. They're wearing their masks. They're social distancing. Their hand hygiene. All of these things in themselves sound small, but collectively, it's why we have a low number of cases and why our economy is so strong, relatively speaking. So we're on a great path, but we got to have that discipline for the next few months. As schools come back, the weather gets a little tougher. If we all stick together in this one, I think we can be very successful going into the winter.
Good. Well, you're doing a good job, Governor. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.